What's up, guys? People have been asking for videos of how to play from behind. And, so this video is going to be about how to play from behind and how to make a comeback, as in this game we'll be playing position 5 Warlock. And in this game, we get pretty far behind. They have an Alk. Their Alk just gave this Ember a, like, 1830 Aghanim Scepter. You can see he's got a lot of net worth, or I guess now it's at their Ember. We're down 5k, but we proceed to get down to, I think at some point, like almost a 15k net worth deficit. So then I'm going to talk about, like, from that point, like, what we're doing to, like, kind of come back, and, like, how you have to play if you want to come back. So conceptually, comebacks in Dota are you're behind, and you need to get something to go your way to, like, get, like, a team fight advantage, to get, like, a pick off. Like, because usually when you're behind, the way it works is if you take a 5v5, you're going to lose, because the enemy's got more net worth, more items, whatever. Like, taking 5v5s while you're behind is not good. It's what the other team wants you to do, it's what you should not be doing. So the key when you're really behind is to, like, conceptually, just what your team as a whole wants to do is split the map, split push, dodge fights, and then, like, regroup quickly and get, like, a pick off, or, like, take advantage of them splitting up. And it's really important as you do this to, like, fight around, like, timings. Like, yes, you're behind, but, like, you know, your core is going to get an item, or, you know, some hero is going to get some important item, or a level, or something, or you're going to have a cooldown up. So it's important to, like, when you do take an engagement to, you know, be at your strongest. Because if you're, like, you know, if you're already behind and then you try to take an engagement while an ulti's on cooldown or your core is, like, 500 gold from BKB, things just aren't going to work. So I'm going to cover 4 or 5, like, key concepts that are pretty important. So you can see at this point we're down, like, 11k. Just lost a Roche to them in a big fight. It's going to get a little bit worse. See, I'm split pushing top here. Since, you know, my heroes are dead, all I can do is split push, even though I'm just, like, a Warlock, right? I'm, like, running around as a Warlock, like, like, what do I do? I'm behind, my team's dead, like, right? Split push. I have my shard, so that, you know, I can clear waves, and it works really well. This hero clears waves, like, it's kind of nuts. Like, Fatal Bond's W, like, just demolishes waves. So you'll see I do a lot of split pushing in this game, and that's what you need to do in your games. So it's just better in general to be picking heroes that have some way to clear waves. Because if you don't have ways to clear waves and you're behind, you're very little options, because you don't have a way to push out the waves and then make them split up. So, like, basically you have to get lucky that they majorly screw up. And I will also note that, like, obviously every game where you're behind, you make a comeback, like, it's naturally going to involve, like, the enemy, like, messing up in some way. So, like, hopefully nobody's like, oh, like, the other enemy team just started playing dumb or something. It's like, you know, nobody plays perfect Dota, regardless of how far behind you are, you know, we're all human. So you just have to learn to identify these advantages, right, that you have, and learn to identify the mistakes they're going to make, because they are going to make advantages. So you're, like, 14k behind. This game feels pretty over at this point, from what I remember. This was, like, last week. You can see, like, we're way behind in net worth. Just way, way behind. So from this point on, I think this is kind of where our comeback starts. They do kind of do a decent throw in a couple minutes here. So I'll cover it from here. One of the concepts I wanted to cover was warding. When you're behind, it's very important. I mean, this is what you should do. Some of the things I'm going to talk about are things that you should be doing whether you're behind or ahead. But, like, certain things when you're behind are, like, kind of absolutely crucial for you to do right, or, like, the game just continues to spiral. So warding around the areas that your team wants to play around and keeping your triangle dewarded are all really important points. So notice here I'm dewarding the triangle. Our Nyx has a gem, which is helpful. Picking up a gem can be nice, you know, even if you're down 14k, like, having a gem so that you can, like, be sure you're dewarding the opponent vision can be really key to, like, making sure that, like, the enemy's not going to get the drop on you, right? Like, them getting the initiation on you when you don't know that they have vision on you is basically, like, game over. Like, you can't win fights under those conditions. Like, the vision game is so important. Another thing I'll talk about is items. So I went this like Holy Locket, like that was my first major item, and it ends up being pretty bad. Oh, my cat is like freaking out right now, like crawling all over my desk. Oh, this is Felix. He's making YouTube videos hard. Hi. Like climbs all around and underneath my monitors and like twitches. It's very distracting. So items. So I went this Holy Locket. Like it's kind of a good item on Warlock in general, and it's not good if you're behind because you're not really in range of like heroes to save, and like it doesn't heal a ton. Like I don't know, in this game it just didn't feel very good. It ended up being kind of a bad item. Here's their throw. So they throw 2 heroes, their main 2 richest cores in base. Like Ember and Alk both die here. I guess Alk technically isn't super high net worth, but like he kind of is. Like he's the one who like he gave Aghanim scepters to like his cores. So like technically these guys are like 4,000 less, and this guy's farmed like 8,000 more gold than it's showing here. So these are their 2 like most farm cores by far, and they just throw here. So part of the advantage, or part of punishing the mistakes, is seeing when they're separated. So like I said, conceptually at the beginning, you need them to split up. You need to take a fight where they are not all together, and you know, that's how you do it, right? You take advantageous fights where you have the numbers. I say this all the time in like my coaching or even my other videos if you watch those. Like post like 25 minutes, the only thing that matters like team fight wise is that you're is 5, or at least like you have more or equal number of heroes than they do. Taking fights while you're split up is like the #1 reason I think why people like just end up taking bad fights. You're not paying enough attention to like where your teammates are. So I don't know what this Alk and Ember were doing. I don't know what their teammates were doing. Something went wrong, and we punished them because we grouped up, and you know they were in a bad spot obviously, but their teammates weren't with them, right? We're taking advantage of that mistake. So going back to the item, right? Holy Locket, not useful. What do I buy next? I buy a Blink Dagger. So this game for me, so the concept here that you need to know when you're like buying items and you're behind, mostly is support, I would say. Like, you know, you're at vulnerability of like just getting insta bursted or whatever, is buy whatever item you need to buy that will let you get your spells off. Like the only thing that matters in this game is that like I get off like for team fights, is that I get off like a Fatal Bonds, like, or like an ult. That's like the only thing that matters for my team. Like nothing else my hero does like contributes to our team fights. We have a lot of damage with other heroes. This Nyx is a core, like a Dagon 5, and his shard. So like, and a Grove Bow. This guy hits like this guy like blows people up all game. That's part of what kept us in the game. Is he was just insta kill supports, even though he was dying a lot. But it's like buying whatever items like keep you in the game, or sorry, buying whatever items let you get your spells off, and you know, figuring out like what you need to do that, and living as long as possible ideally to get a second round of spells off is like your next priority. On Warlock it like doesn't really matter. Like a second round of spells doesn't do a lot. The cooldown on Fatal Bonds is like, it's like 18 seconds. You're not usually getting a second Fatal Bonds off isn't super impactful. Fights usually kind of spread out, you know. But like, you know, if you're like a Lion or something, like you really want to like get your spells off and then like chill and not die and get like another stun and hex off, right? That's like super impactful. So I buy a Blink Dagger because my thought process is the only way that I can like be sure to get my ult off is if I'm like so far away from like my team that I can't possibly get gone on when the fight starts, and then I can like blink in if I need to for positioning and like get my spells off. And that's the only thing that like, that was my thought process with buying this Blink Dagger. So whatever item you need based on the hero you're playing and the game you're in to like get your spells off. Going back to warding, I always ward around the objectives I want to play by. So like we want to play around Roshan and take this next Roshan, and that's where I'm going to ward. Like this bottom ward, I don't know who put that down there, but like in a game like this where you're down like a ton, like this bottom ward doesn't really matter because we're not looking to play there. So it's important to not like waste your wards, right? Or like I see like some people like they'll put a deep ward in the triangle just to put one there, but like my team is not looking to like take a fight in their triangle, you know? Like we want to take Roshan and we want to like look for pickoffs, you know, mostly up here probably, just based on the flow of the map. So you see my warding. I'm going to speed it up a little bit. You'll see my warding will just be around objectives. The other major thing that's really important is split pushing. So you'll see here, like what I do. And like this game is a little awkward because like Slark is not really a split pusher. He doesn't show on waves a lot. Arc Warden does with his clones. Like Arc Warden's doing a lot of split pushing, but then like Nyx and Tiny are like more pick off really. They don't really show on waves a lot. So like who shows on waves? Like me and like Arc Warden clones. Like by showing on waves, I just mean like responsible for like clearing the waves and like cleaning up and like it's being like, you know, if you show for a second, it's not a huge deal. The enemy knows where I am. So see what I do here is I like clear this wave under their T3 and then I just hang around and do it again. Like we've got a dead Tiny. We do not want them to push and fight. So all I can do is just clean up more waves. Like I get my spells off and then I do blink out here because they had like a hero close by and they could have had somebody else. But this sort of thing like just delays the game so much. Like that this Bloodseeker has to like be cleaning up this top wave instead of like grouping up with his team, right? Their team would have liked to group up and push as 5 when we had a dead Tiny. And instead he's cleaning up top and then my Nyx freaking kills him with the Arc Warden clone. You know, and that me split pushing this is what set this up, right? Like the Nyx was up here and I was up here. And if I just walked away and then their creep wave, remember I killed 2 creep waves. So if like the first creep wave I hadn't killed like got to like here, like this Bloodseeker never would have had to come here in the first place. Like you just wouldn't have had to because the Nyx wouldn't have pushed the wave in and the Bloodseeker wouldn't have had to come here and then they could have just grouped up and walked down mid. But instead, I'm up there, I'm split pushing the wave. I do it twice, and when creeps are hitting their tier 3 tower, like they really want to do something. Like when you're like a good Dota player and you see creeps hitting your tier 3 tower, and you're like ahead by 11k gold, you're like, what is happening? Like, this isn't right. Like, we need to push out these waves, right? And then he ends up getting punished by our heavy pickoff. Another thing I'll mention right here real quick is like, dewarding when you're behind is super dangerous, and like you have to recognize this at all times when you're looking to deward. It happens a lot around cliffs, but it doesn't really matter where it is. Like, if you're dewarding, by definition, the heroes, they know where you are. Like, they see you dewarding. So, if you're ever, like, kind of, like, I don't see anybody on their team, right? They got 4 heroes alive. I don't see anybody on their team. And I'm under a ward. They see me doing this. So, if I stick around here any longer than is necessary, it's a very high chance that I'll die, because when you're ahead, or when you're behind, honestly, part of playing good Dota is playing around your vision. So like a lot of times people will be playing around their wards in the first place. So if you're dewarding a ward and you don't know where they are, you have to understand that it is super dangerous and not linger at all. Like, and a lot of times as support, you might die for it. Like I died for a ward on this cliff earlier, because like they were all playing around the ward and they saw me as I walked up to deward it and I just died. You know, I don't even think I got the deward in that scenario. Sometimes you like get the ward and still die. Sometimes you die before even getting 2 attacks off on the ward. And so here again, I'm just looking to play and ward around Roshan. And notice I dewarded our triangle. And like I only had to place 1 sentry because I got lucky. But like if you are trying to deward, like you need to place like multiple sentry wards. Like, and not on the cliffs, right? Bring your courier out. Place a sentry here that like sees this. Or, you know, you can place it here so they can see this common ward spot and this common ward spot. Like place a sentry like here maybe so you can see if they like here and here. Or you can place a sentry like down here and then you can see this cliff and like if they warded this like little ramp area here. You know, get some good coverage. There's no excuse for like putting 1 sentry here on this cliff and 1 sentry here on this cliff and saying, oh yeah, my job's done. Like, people will ward here. They will ward here. They will ward here. Your sentries on the cliffs do not see those wards. If you're just not doing your job, if you're not thoroughly looking for their wards and where they might be. So here again, we're pretty grouped up. Like our Nyx is dead, but you can see that I'm trying to stick with my team here. And as soon as I see this is like going pretty poorly, I try and get out. My Tiny really griefs me here and tosses their Ember onto me. I was like, I remember in the game, I was like, dude, what are you doing? I wasn't like raging at him, but I was just like, it was just like disbelief, you know? It's like, dude, what? I remember that's how I felt there. So yeah, you can see this is still a close game. This is not, like, they kind of threw, but it is still a close game. The comeback is not real yet. So this next phase of the game, I think, is where we really start to, like, play correctly and, like, split them up. Here's a mistake, and like I said before, punishing mistakes is important. These guys are going high ground with no Aegis. It's so important to, like, have Aegis when you go high ground. Like, this is such a throw. Like, these guys are, you know, these guys are rank 1300 immortal, rank 1000 immortal, rank 1200, rank 1100. These are good players, right? And they're going high ground with no Aegis. You know, get Aegis before you go high ground. If it's not up, wait. Control the map. Like, what they should be doing right now, while we've got Tiny dead, is they should ward, like, somewhere here, sit here as 4 heroes, and cut. Like, they should send 1 hero here and push it all the way out. And they should sit the other 4 heroes in their triangle, cutting mid, waiting for whoever went top to, like, push it all the way out, and, like, control this whole side of the map and the Roshan area behind them, and then whenever Rosh respawns, they just take it, and if we walk up into our triangle, we die. Because they would have, like, high ground vision. We don't have, like, any way to, like, play around that. Like, that's, like, the correct safe play. And instead, they just go high ground with no Aegis. And Warlock dies. And we get a couple other pickoffs, too. Huge mistake from them. And, you know, this, like, we didn't do anything magical in the team fight, right? We just took an advantageous fight on our high ground, under our tower. I don't even think anybody had to buy back. No, the last person that bought back was, like, a Rubik. So, like, you know, punish these advantages, right? And look, Rosh is up. I'm warding around Rosh. We're playing around Rosh. So our team is playing quite a bit more disciplined than they are right now. Well, for the most part, I guess. And, you know, that pretty much demolished their lead. This is a really lucky D-ward, honestly. But this goes back to, like, doing this D-ward in the first place, or, like, checking here, like, goes back to, like, what I was saying earlier of, like, warding around, and, like, this goes for D-warding too, warding and D-warding around the areas you want to play, right? Like, we're not ahead, but we're, like, pressuring, right? They have dead heroes. We're going to be playing around this mid tower. Maybe we're going to be pushing top. So, like, if they did have a ward here, it's really important that you, like, try and D-ward it, right? And you'll see this next ward I place. It's going to be a little sneaky. I don't place it exactly where I just D-warded, right? But I get it a little further back. And we have Aegis here, but this fight does not go well. I think... What is happening here? I think just Ark's, like, not here, right? And then Slark gets really low, and I think he, like, ults TP's out, right? So, like, basically, we all have to get out, is the idea here. So, ITP base, make sure you bail when fights are going bad. Like, don't try and save your teammates, right? Like, every hero is, like, important at this phase. Like, if you're not a safe hero, do not, like, play the +1 and try and, like, hang around, right? So now that we're a little bit stronger, I do look to play some vision bottom. Like, my thought process is, like, we still have Aegis, and we should, like, play this area. Like, we can play in their triangle and be strong and, like, push in mid and top. And you'll see my team doesn't really do that, which I think is a mistake, because we end up, like, throwing a little bit more here. So this goes back to, like, playing around your vision, right? Like, we have good wards bottom, like here. It's be really great to play around, and instead... we, like, look to play top, and I don't remember if I was telling my team not to, but, like, in this scenario, walking into their jungle, like, right, what's the other team have done right now? Like, they're camping here. We know they're not on the triangle. We know they're not bottom. Like, they're camping here, and they have wards. Like, let's just check. I don't know. Looks like they've smoked, too. But this is just so dumb, like, conceptually, like, what we're doing here. Can I just go to their vision? Let's go back and then, like, what do they see? Yeah, look. So they're smoking bottom, but they've got a ward here, right? So they've got all the information that they need to, like, make an aggressive play. They're looking first down here. They're making an aggressive play. And if we would have been playing down here in the first place, we would have had vision, right? Like, if we had broken the smoke, like, here, or, like, you know, like, we had a ward here. And, like, we would have been able to take a good fight, maybe. Go back to my view. So they're, like, smoked right here, right? And then I think this Nyx just gets caught. They just walk back up into their area because they didn't find us. And look, the fight ended up happening right on top of their ward. Like, it was just dumb for us to play here. We weren't playing around our vision, and it just naturally fell into, like, where their vision was. So you can see, you know, we don't, like, just come back and then stomp the rest of the game. This is still a very close game. Our arc is getting pretty farmed, but, you know, if he dies, like, once, like, we easily just lose, right? So here, what happens here? Because we get a really good fight here. or like good enough, and I don't really I didn't understand the game, like why this was happening. So, oh, so Bloodseeker's top. So that's what's going on. I think this Ember probably has a remnant. So Bloodseeker definitely is not here. Ember's not here, but he probably can come back. I'm assuming he has a remnant, although maybe he doesn't. And these are like the mistakes, right? That you gotta punish. Like, are they like pushing without their whole team? Like, can you take a fight? Well, they don't have their whole team, right? My Slark connects. Oh, look at, we see their Bloodseeker. You know, we have the information that they are not grouped up, right? So my Slark goes in. And yeah, we don't have our whole team, but like, our pickoff lineup, I guess the Slark just felt strong enough that he could like go kill support, which he does. And then they all have to like, they kind of like get in disarray, and then we like, you know, take advantage of it. And here they buy back, and no, we bought back. Oh, they bought back Ember, and then we bought back Tiny. But that all started because Bloodseeker wasn't there in the first place, right? They weren't together as 5, and we were punishing their mistakes. Here I'm microing my Golem to split push, like more split pushing, right? Like, what is this? So I died in the fight, and I just micro this Golem to split push. Like my team's going mid, looking for a fight. I clear this wave, bang this tower. These Golems are super strong. Clear this whole next wave, and this Lich is like forced to. I mean, I guess he wouldn't be doing anything else. The rest of his team's dead, but. You know, Golem put in a lot of work, right? Got me a lot of farm. So this is the end of the video. Hopefully you can see how, you know, we fought around when we had the numbers advantage, or we tried to. I split pushed, like when I couldn't do anything else. You know, I warded around the objectives we wanted to play around, and we took fights as 5 as often as we could. And the last thing is we took advantage of their mistakes, right? What are the mistakes that your opponents are going to make? They're not going to be as 5. They're going to go high ground with no Aegis. You know, they're going to make some crazy dives. Like, if you are split pushing, they're not going to respond well to your split push pressure, right? Sometimes you can pick off the hero that comes to defend the split push, like if you've got another hero in the area. So these are the mistakes you need to be looking to force when you're behind. Split the lanes, ward around the areas you want to take fights under your vision, and, you know, with as many heroes as possible. And hopefully if you implement these, you can start to be a little more consistent in your comebacks, right? If you have a game plan, this is what we need to do, this is how we need to play, you'll be able to like recognize and punish these mistakes way easier. So good luck out there.